And welcome back to Subculture listeners. Now, I am about to introduce you all to a band that I am sure you are going to fall in love with very, very quickly. UK rock band Empyre has got a brand new single out at the moment called Hit and Run, and their brand new album called Relentless is coming out on March 31st. And I thought, hey, let's get to know these guys a little bit more. So we thought we would actually get one of the members of the band, Henrik, on the phone tonight to chat a little bit about the album. Welcome to the program, mate.
Hi, Dave. Thanks for having me.
No problem. Now, mate, this album is just an absolutely fantastic album. Hit and Run picked up Classic Rock's Track of the Week just a couple of weeks ago as well. So congratulations on everything that you guys have got going on at the moment.
Thank you very much. We're so pleased that the response so far for the singles and for the album has been really, really positive. It's surprising, and we're so pleased about it, really.
So we're going to play Hit and Run on our show in just a moment, but tell us a little bit about this album, because of course this album came out for you like when you first started to work on it after your last album, and then of course we were going into lockdowns and things like that. So what was it like working on this album, and what kind of things were inspiring you at that time?
It was pretty different to any of the writing that we've done before, because we really started writing it at the beginning of lockdown, where we couldn't get in a room together to rehearse, we couldn't get in a room together to write, and so we started working on bits individually, and then putting them together remotely. Maybe I'd make a demo, or our lead guitarist would make a bit of a demo, and a few months in, Did and I were able to get in to be in a bubble, so we could work a bit more together. But it was kind of sporadic in terms of when all the guys could get together and practice. So both the writing and the recording process was done in fits and starts of, we'll work on a few songs, we'll try and get and rehearse them, we'll then go and record them, we'd then tweak some demos, rehearse, record. So it took a while to get it all going, but in a way, maybe it worked out for the best, because it meant that we had a lot of time to hone these songs and work on them and really analyze the parts to bring out what we wanted.
Some bands have told me that's almost been a bad thing for them during that time, because it made them overthink some of their tracks. What was that like for you? It sounds like it actually enhanced your music. Did you find that was a pleasurable experience, being able to spend more time on each track?
Bit of both. So it was definitely frustrating in some instances. When we couldn't do everything we wanted to do, we couldn't go, oh, this might work. Let's get it into a live rehearsal space and see what it sounds like. A lot of it was done on a PC and recording, and then not even knowing whether that's going to work live. But we just didn't give ourselves any barriers. Anything we wanted on this album, we put on the album. So if we wanted 4 guitar parts for 2 guitarists to play, we just put 4 guitar parts on there. If we wanted an orchestra, which there's no way we're playing with at the moment, unfortunately, we put an orchestra on there. And that was great. That was a lot of fun to play around with. It really was, let's just do exactly what we want to do and make it what we want it to be, and then we'll worry about the live performance and how we're going to achieve these things when people come and see us at a gig at a later date. So we definitely saw it more as an opportunity than something that was a weakness or going to frustrate us too much.
Having things like an orchestra involved as well, how did that change your recording process?
Well, we didn't actually use any real players, any real orchestration. During lockdown, I just discovered samples for computers, and I was watching YouTube one day and something popped up from a company called Spitfire Audio, and they make a package. They were just bringing it out. I think it was about the beginning of lockdown, called BBC Symphony Orchestra. And I thought, this is going to be stupid expensive. And it was, for the middle version of that package, it was a few £100, or I guess a few $100 for you guys. And it wasn't outrageous. I thought, well, if we're going to be in lockdown for who knows how long, I'm going to start playing with this. And even if it's just stuff for my own purposes, I'll do a little bit of classical stuff. I like soundtracks and play around with it, see what's possible. And we started just layering, maybe a cello line or some violin into a few bits and pieces. And it's like, okay, we want to do more of this. And it kind of escalated from there. So what we did is we built and arranged, orchestrated anything we wanted from an orchestra or samples on the computer in MIDI beforehand, and then just took those in as mixers to the studio and integrated them or played with them afterwards to put them into the mixers. So it was a lot of fun, but it means that there is a challenge to do that live without an orchestra there. We have to actually trigger it and use samples. But hopefully one day we'll have the opportunity to do what so many great rock bands have done and actually play with proper strings and horn section and that sort of stuff.
Definitely. One of the things, of course, that happened after the release of your last album, The Other Side, was that there was comparisons there that people were making between you and great bands like Soundgarden and Dire Straits and Muse. Did you feel that put any pressure on you with this album, or did you just see those as great compliments?
Well, they are certainly great compliments, and all bands that we look up to and admire, and they're all legends. So any comparison with anyone like that it's always a massive compliment. I don't think that we felt the pressure from that. I think we felt a lot of pressure just from ourselves, that we wanted to try and better what we'd done with Self-Aware and then The Other Side. And I was certainly worried before we started writing that we weren't going to be able to do it, but I do feel that we have done it. I think Relentless is a step up for us, and in a couple of months' time, I'll start worrying about how we're going to better Relentless.
Yeah, there's a lot of emotion on this album as well. Of course, Hit and Run is about you returning back to your hometown in Denmark and things like that. What kind of things were inspiring your lyrics when you sat down to work on this album?
I think this one, you're right. It's a bit more emotional. It's a bit more personal than perhaps our first album, Self-Aware. We did some stuff that was personal on there, but stuff that was observational as well. And we still write songs that are observational, but with songs like Hit and Run, that it is about personal experience. And Relentless, the title track, whilst it is a kind of exaggerated aggressiveness, it's about our kind of unrelenting feeling towards driving the band forward and trying to make a success out of it. It wasn't really anything to do with the pandemic and lockdown, because I actually wrote the chorus for it before, but it's just appropriate that made things even harder, but we tried to really see it as an opportunity that time. So Relentless kind of grew from there. Waking Light leads on from that, not just in terms of theme, but also on the album as track number 2. And that is a little bit of a play on the idea of building an uprising or a revolution, but it's actually about trying to build the following for Empyre. And we play on those lyrics in the final lines of the song about building an empire. So I think it was personal perspective of kind of how much we were putting into the album at the time from those songs, at least, and what we wanted to get out of it. And then we had other things. There's one song by that's mainly Dids, that's about loss and grief and dealing with the loss of his brother. And then at the end of the album, there's Your Whole Life Slows, which is vaguely observational on how, again, it relates to Relentless in a way where we're observing other people's lives slowing down during lockdown and the pandemic, whereas I think we released like 7 singles and 15 music videos and still managed to do a few gigs and wrote an album and recorded another album. And whilst it was really detrimental to us in terms of being able to get out and play live, we managed to achieve, we feel and hope, quite a lot during what were difficult
Definitely. Forget Me is one of my favorite tracks on the album as well. Tell us a little bit about that track, because that track just absolutely blew me away.
Yeah, that is another emotional one. It's a perhaps a difficult subject for some people to hear about. So it's inspired by a couple of things. There's a South African philosopher called David Benatar, and he wrote a book called Better to Never Have Been, I believe it's called, and did told me about that book. I haven't read it, but the premise, I believe, is the fact that you can't go through life without experiencing pain, and therefore there's an argument there's perhaps better to never have been. No matter how good your life is, you just can't avoid pain. So you didn't experience that before you existed, so perhaps you're better off never existing, which I thought was quite an interesting idea. And there was that. I sat down and I really wanted to write the saddest song I possibly could. Nothing to do with how I felt at the time. We just like, as Empyre, the melancholy, the emotion. It's the sadder songs that resonate with us more than the happier songs. So, and at the time, Grant had introduced me just a bit previously, I think, from when we were doing our last tour to a Stephen Wilson song called Pariah, which really lights, starts off small, big chorus, massive outro. So kind of based it around a similar format, and did want to make Forget Me, may still do at some stage, make it a kind of duet. It's actually about, I just wrote a story about a guy who decides that he's weighed up the pros and cons of life and decided, well, I've had the best years. I'm about done with this, and not from a place of any poor mental health or struggling with anything in particular. He's just gone, weighed it up, pros and cons, and went, nah, that's it, I'm done now, and decides to go and kill himself. And before he does that, he goes to see an old friend or mentor and tell them what his plan is and what he's going to do. And so that anybody, once he's gone, then people don't think, oh, he must have been in a terrible place and poor him. He's more like, nah, it was, that's done. Now you can just sort of forget about me. So, quite a dark idea, but also hopefully a different take on how people approach life, and not my sentiment at all. Just inspired by the book.
Definitely. Like I said, it's an absolutely amazing track. Henrik, I know we are running out of time very, very quickly, so I just wanted to quickly touch on what's the band's plans now for the rest of this year? This album is about to come out and you're getting noticed in new territories now, like Australia. What's your plans from now on? Are you looking to tour more, or what are the plans for the rest of this year?
We would definitely like to tour as much as we can. At present, we are, I was going to say stuck in the UK. That's not entirely true, but the gigs that we've got are purely UK based. We've got to see how how Relentless is received around the world. The early signs look really promising and really good. And we've just joined the roster of booking agent CITB, who have some ginormous acts on their roster. Really well-known rock bands like Guns N' Roses and Stone Temple Pilots and Pearl Jam. But that's not to say that we can necessarily just hop on a tour with those guys. But hopefully at least this will provide us with some more opportunities to get out of the UK and further afield. We would, of course, love to come to Australia. We don't know whether that's achievable this year or next, but fingers crossed.
Definitely. Well, mate, we are going to play Hit and Run on our show right now. So what would you like to say to all the Aussies out there who are about to sit down and listen to this track?
I hope you enjoy it. If you do enjoy it, please listen to the rest of Relentless. It's quite a broad album. Hit and Run is a kind of warm, I mean, it suits Australia in, I guess, what you're coming out your summer at the moment. So it is for a hot day, driving down the road with a cool breeze. It is, that's how I liken it. So, perfect song for a late Australian summer.
Definitely. Well, listeners, we are going to play Hit and Run right now by Empyre. Sit back and enjoy this track.